Hey, I'm Jordan and I'm working on this. It's called Manafields and it's a 1v1 fantasy wargame for mobile and browsers. In this video, I want to catch you up on the progress I've made over the first 3 months of development, including finishing off the gameplay, working on the UI and the menus, and getting the game ready for a closed alpha launch. I've also just started a Discord server where I'm going to be posting regular updates about the game's development and running playtests of early versions of the game. So if you're interested in playing Manafields and helping me to improve on the game before release, you can join the server at the link in the description. At the end of my previous devlog, I had just finished the move, fight and shoot orders, which are fundamental orders in the game. And in the weeks that followed, I started working on the final 3 orders in the game: the heroic ability order, the march order, and faction ability orders. Each hero has a unique heroic ability that allows them to manipulate the battlefield and assist their troops in destroying enemy units and securing objectives. There's the War Master, who can pull enemy units towards him. There's the Wizard, who pushes enemy units away. There's the Cleric, who can pick a unit and heal them back to full health. And there's the Drummer, who can choose 2 friendly units and give them some extra movement. Heroic abilities cost 1 order point and can only be used once per turn. However, the hero that you pick to be your general is allowed to use their heroic ability for free each turn. Choosing your general is not going to just be about deciding which hero is the most survivable, but it's also going to be about choosing a hero that has an ability that makes your game plan most effective. The march order is something that I added to the game after a lot of playtesting. What I discovered was that the small action economy of only 3 order points per turn was really forcing players to focus on just a small group of units for many turns in a row. And from a bird's eye view, I found that armies weren't behaving on the battlefield the way that I wanted them to. Often at the end of the game, players would have units left behind in their deployment that had not really done anything at all. In order to solve this problem, I introduced the march order, which allows you to move every single unit in your army 1 square. This allows you to keep your units in their formations and helps you to deliver your resources to the places that you need them. The last type of order that I had to implement was the faction ability order, which is kind of like an ultimate ability from a MOBA or a hero shooter. The idea is that you charge up your faction ability over a few turns and then use it to secure yourself an advantage. If you want to know more about the unique faction abilities that the humans, elves, orcs and undead bring to the game, you can check out my last video where I covered factions and their special rules in depth. So now at this point, all the rules of the game were fully implemented, including all 6 order types, deployment, the ability to fight in melee and shoot from range, objectives and scoring and special faction rules. And so with all that in place, it was time to upgrade the ugly placeholder UI that had been in the game so far. The first thing I did was add the icons for the 2 types of resources in the game: order points and morale. In the top right hand corner of your screen, you'll see your order points arranged here and your morale down here. And over on the left hand side of the screen, you'll see your opponent's resources laid out in a similar way. When you click on a friendly unit, you're going to see how much it's going to cost for that unit to perform a certain action. Remember that sometimes an order will have a different cost depending on the unit, such as your general, who gets to use their heroic ability for free, or the archers, who can receive a shoot order for 1 order point instead of 2 if they haven't moved. I also added these costs to the confirm button so that players know exactly how many of their resources they're about to spend on an action. I also added a cancel button so that players can change their mind about an order halfway through. It was already the case that clicking on a unit would show you their legal move squares so that you could plan your actions around the potential movement of your opponent's units. Now, when you click on a unit, it'll also show you a minimized summary of that unit's most important stats on the left-hand side of the screen. Seeing a unit's armor and remaining health might help you to decide how you want to handle that unit on your turn. And clicking on this frame is going to show you a maximized stat sheet for that unit, detailing all of their stats and a description of their unique abilities. At the moment, the stat sheet is functional. It provides all the necessary information about the unit, but I do have some improvements in mind to make it look better in the future. In earlier builds of the game, when you would click on an enemy unit to target them for a fight order or a shoot order, it would immediately take you to the dice rolling interface with no way to cancel the attack. But now I've implemented a combat summary that tells you the number of dice you'll be rolling, the result you'll need to hit that target, the result you'll need to break their armor, and the damage value for each dice that successfully hits and breaks the enemy's armor. Below that, I also provide a calculated average damage to give players an idea of what they can expect from a combat. If you're not happy with the number, you can press cancel and issue a different order instead. Next, I added an army tray for deployment. Players can slide the tray left and right and drag and drop units from the tray onto the board. Previously, after you deployed a unit, you weren't able to adjust their position on the board. But now you can move them around, adjust your deployment until you're happy with it, and you can even press cancel to snap all the units back into the tray. Once you're happy with your deployment, you can press confirm to lock it in, and remember that deployment is done in secret, so you won't see your opponent's deployment until the game has begun. There are a few in-game UI elements that are still very much a work in progress. For example, this new turn banner that alerts players when the turn's been passed over. It's functional for now, but I'd like it to look nicer and also to give some information about how many points the opponent scored in the previous turn. Or for instance, this game log, which is going to give you a summary of each of the turns that have occurred. This sketch here kind of shows what I want this to look like, with the idea being that each entry is going to show you exactly which orders were issued, how much they cost. It's going to show you icons for which players own which objectives at the end of each of these turns, and it'll even have buttons that allow you to jump to certain squares on the map where events have occurred. I also plan on doing a major overhaul of the dice rolling interface. For one, the dice right now feel kind of flat and rolling them isn't very satisfying. And secondly, having to tap each individual failed roll to remove it isn't really adding anything to the gameplay, and it's definitely salt in the wound if you make a particularly bad roll. I really want dice rolling to be quick, satisfying, and I want it to be fun in its own right, so there's still a lot of work to be done here. And also this bit is ugly, and I'll be replacing that with a spinning portal or something. The same goes for this priority rolling interface. It does do a pretty good job of communicating what I want to go for with the priority rolling screen. 2 dice in the center of the screen and a kind of face-off to determine who takes the first turn. This specific version, however, kind of misses the mark as far as what I'm imagining. I've also been working on the menus for the game. The art here is just a placeholder until I can commission something better, but like many things in the game, it's functional for now. From the main menu, you can play online or locally. You can create and manage your army lists, and you can navigate to the Learn menu, which is going to contain a few interactive tutorials, as well as the official Manafields rulebook. If you select My Lists, you'll see all the army lists you've created, and you can edit, delete, or create a new army list from here. And then this is the list building screen, which allows you to select a faction from this drop-down, read about their unique faction rules, and provide a name for your list. In the panel on the left, you can add units to the 3 categories: General, Heroes, and Troops. Clicking to add a unit will show you all of the units in Manafields, and you can click on the unit's name to see its full-sized stats sheet on the right-hand side. Once you've created a few army lists, you're ready to play. Currently there's only support for playing locally, which means 2 players will take turns using the same device. The local play setup screen allows each player to select their list in secret before revealing the factions that each player chose. After that, players select the scenario that they want to play, and then the game begins. At launch, I'm hoping to have between 3 and 5 scenarios available. Each of them is going to have a different biome, such as the forest or the snow or the desert and so on. And each scenario will also have a different layout for terrain and objectives to add variety to deployment and to the way that games play out. So anyway, that's where I'm up to on the development of Manafields after the first 3 months. I have been working on this day and night throughout the summer holidays, but I'm back at uni now, so I'm going to be dividing my time up a lot more. But luckily the game itself is complete, and there isn't much left to do until I'm able to get some alpha playtesters on board to help me polish and tighten the game. So if you're interested in playtesting the game, or just interested in following it day to day, join the Discord that I linked in the description. In the next few videos, I'd like to cover some of the other wargames I've been playing, namely Root and Warhammer The Old World, and talk about the ways in which those games are inspiring design decisions that I'm making for Manafields. I'll see you then.